afternoon. How y'all doing? Come on, how you doing? All right, it's no point in being sad. Like he said, Ron, I met Ron, man. You're gonna laugh at this one. We were 22 years old. 22 years old, and I had my own breakdance crew. He had his. Let me tell you, there was a club we met in Fort Worth, Texas called West Side Stories. And it was country on one side, kind of hip hop R&B on the other side, and then rock and roll in the middle. And we didn't get to be where we danced at. But I didn't like Ron when I first met him. Nah, because he had moves I didn't have. I can tell you exactly what he wore the first time I laid eyes on him. He was wearing MC Hammer pants, Bobby Brown boots with the steel toes on the front, and a puffy shirt. And it was just like a combination of Prince, MC. But he could dance. He was smooth on his feet. He could really handle himself. And you know, after that night, we kept battling back and forth. And finally, we talked to each other and found out that I was doing comedy. And he said he'd always wanted to do it. So I said, hey, go for it. And after that, Ron started kind of venturing off and on his journey of doing comedy. And it's just been a great thing. And as the years went on, me and Ron stayed in touch. I mean, we toured together. We went to USO shows across overseas. He entertained the troops. Ron would do a show if he could just have a box. He would just stand on it and tell jokes in front of anybody for free. And then I used to tell him, Ron, you don't need to do jokes for free. You're talented. You can get paid. And when I remember when he first got his first paycheck for comedy, he was hooked, really hooked. Because he's like, he can make a living at this. And he was really good. And there was nights when we go on stage and we would be in competition with each other. We're on tour together. And we had so much fun together. And we started this little thing about watches, the big watches. I had a watch on one night. I was performing here in Temple, downtown Temple. We had a big show. And I had a watch on. And at the hotel, he kept asking me about the watch. And I kept saying, Ron, you're getting this watch. No way you're getting this watch. He goes, man, just let me wear it. I said, nah, Ron. So he was on a stage. And he mentioned it. He introduced me and I came on stage. And I did my little thing, boom, 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 boom. As I came off, Ron said, hey man, look, can I borrow your watch? So I know how much time I'm doing on stage. And I didn't think nothing about it. Well, guess what? To this day, Ron still owned that watch. Never got it back. But you know what? That's the thing I loved about him. He was a giving, loving, fun kind of guy. And a lot of y'all, I don't know how many of y'all know. How many of y'all knew Ron personally? Raise your hands. So, how many years did you know him? 9, okay. So you know how he was. A lot of people, and let me tell you, in this comedy business, and you know, right? There can be a lot of hatred going on. Especially when somebody's doing really good. But the way we did things, me and Ron, was if one makes it, we all make it. And that's how it was with me and Ron. That's why we stayed in touch over the years. Don't think this is a love story, because it's not. We bump heads. Sometimes there would be a point where I hang the phone up in his face and not talk to him for weeks because he said something or done something dumb, but he wasn't listening. But the one thing I did learn about Ron was his commitment of love and never giving up on what he believed in. And the one thing I'm gonna say to his daughter is, he never gave up on her. He never gave up. He talked about her when we'd be on the road touring. He would say things about her playing volleyball. He would just constantly, you know, and I have 3 of my own. And I have 2 daughters and a son. My daughter just went off to college. Ron, on the day she went to college, that was this year, it was a couple weeks ago, and I took her to college and I called him. And he said, hey, Daddy, it's white chocolate. And she was like, oh my God, it's white chocolate. And she was telling all her, you know, her people in her room who sell, you know, her sweet mates. And she goes, this is white chocolate. This is the guy who tours with my dad doing comedy all the time. And Ron told her to have a good year this year. Stay safe, stay sound, and keep the Lord in your heart. And have faith. And to me, that was precious because Ron knew my daughter ever since she was were born. And she grew up. I have an 18-year-old, which is her. Then I have my son Miles, who's 15, and my youngest, who is 12. Her name is Isabel. We call her Izzy. Miles knew about white chocolate. My kids pretty much knew because there's posters of him in my office, in my home, of him. Photographs. I have stacks and stacks of pictures. I have videos of us on stage. I have stuff. Ron streaked one time on a bed. I never paid him. And he streaked through a hotel one time and got locked outside through the exit door because I took the exit sign off. And he thought he was running to the front lobby, but instead he went outside and he had to stay out there until somebody came in under the meeting.
Oh my God.
But that's the kind of things we did with each other. We had fun, and it was just amazing things. And Dee Dee, you were telling the story about the trip to Tennessee. You got it wrong. They didn't love us. Yeah, they did love us. All 7 people that showed up for the show. We drove, 10, 12 hours?
At least 12.
12 hours. We got there about 2 in the morning. The show was the next day. In this town, the only thing they had was a Walmart. That was it. And I remember going to the Walmart and buying a hoodie because I only wanted to remember this town, so I'll never go back there again.
Dyersburg, Tennessee.
And but we did our show. All 7 people enjoyed it. And Ron was the headliner. He acted like there was 1,000 people there. That's how he performed every time he got on stage. Like 1,000 people. Like he didn't care. And at the end of his sermon, at the end of the thing, I always call it a sermon. Because he'll be telling jokes, boom, boom, boom. Remember Dee? And then all of a sudden he'll break into preaching. And he blended it throughout the show, but at the end of the show, it was always about what the Lord has done for him. And I'm going to miss him because in my phone coming here last night, I have text messages from him. I talked to him Thursday, the day before he died, passed away. And we have been talking about him buying a car. And I said, yo, if you need, anyone, I'll help you. And he would text me about what kind of cars he wanted. And he had his heart set on a BMW. He wanted this BMW. I don't know what it was about this BMW, but this is what he wanted. And I always told him, you really don't want a BMW. He goes, why? I said, do you know what that stands for? And he's like, what? I said, BMW stands for a black man's wish. And he was like, oh man, come on. And I said, nah, I'm just kidding with you. But this is what he worked for. He really wanted this. I didn't know that Ron's health was, declining because I guess he didn't want me to know. Because if I would have known, I'd have been there for him to help him. And just maybe, those are the thoughts that go through my mind because if he would have told me, any of us, we'd have been there for him. And we'd have helped him. Now, I haven't met his friend, Chris. Is Chris here? Chris, I just want to thank you because Chris has been in contact with me for the last few days as well as Flo. And I want to thank you guys for being there for him in this last waking moments of his life. And Chris, especially you, because he talked about you on the phone. I never saw you until today, but he did mention you a lot. He loved his job, he loved the people he worked for, he loved the community that he lived in. And so I just want to thank you personally from my heart and to let you know that you will always have a place there for me. If you need something, you call, you got my number, you know that. You got my number, Flo, you got my number, you know what to do. So, Allie, raise your hand. You know I know you. Allie, I want to share something with you that you probably don't even know. I know you and Ron had your problems early at times, back in the day.